Rode my bike into work that Saturday. It was August 26th of 2003. And then on my way home, I got hit by a car, a young driver. We were looking eye to eye, and he just got his driver's license, and he said he didn't see me, so he just pulled out and hammered me. I got life flighted to Grady Hospital, heart surgery, knee surgery, shoulder surgery. I couldn't talk for like 4 or 5 months. So it was a near-death experience for sure.
Welcome to Beyond Broken Cars. I'm your host, Thomas Hayes, and that was today's guest, Jim Brown. Jim's built one of the most successful multi-shop auto repair businesses in the Atlanta area, but the road wasn't always smooth for him. He started his journey changing oil at a shop at 17 years old, worked his way up, and eventually bought that shop. But he nearly lost everything after a near-fatal accident. Jim's story will show us how to cultivate true grit, grow through humility, and build a shop that can withstand any storm. I am proud to have Jim be our first episode. Stay tuned. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm really happy to have you, man. I'm happy that you are the first interview. That makes me really happy.
I feel special, man. I'm glad you asked me.
Absolutely. Well, one reason I wanted to have you on as the first guest is you have a really cool story. There's a lot of parts of your story that I think is going to inspire a lot of people, especially folks that have taken over stores, multi-generation. There's a lot of things in here that I just think people are going to really love to hear. But before we get into that, how did you get into the industry?
It was in the late 80s. A gentleman opened up a auto repair shop that's real near my house, and my wife, we were in high school at the time. She was like, "Hey, there's a new auto repair shop opening up, and they have a hiring sign. Why don't you go down and apply?" So I was 17 years old and went down and applied and got the job.
What was the role? I mean, were you wrenching, or what were you doing?
Yeah, I started out just changing oil and started out in the shop and sort of like worked my way around, started changing oil, doing service stuff, did parts changing type stuff, emission testing, and all the roles out in the shop. And I did that for a couple of years and fell in love with the business. I've always loved cars and motorcycles, and I loved people. So and I hated sitting at a desk or being inside. So that gave me the freedom to be outside and to still be able to be around people and to help people and stuff. So the owner at the time was like, he became a life mentor to me, and he had retired from GE as an electrical engineer and got bored and wanted to start a business. And so he always believed in helping people and helping the customers, and he was always lived a life of service. And he brought me into the office and started teaching me how to run a business, how to treat customers, how to keep customers for life and stuff, and and of course the business side and stuff. So it was just a great fit.
That's interesting that, the owner brought you in to teach you how to be an owner. That almost seems counterintuitive, sometimes. Was that something you initiated? Did he just, did he say like, "Hey, at some point, I want to move on from the business"? Like, how did that come up?
Not really. I think that was just his nature to help people. And like I was a wild child at that age, and he saw past that. Right. Yeah, and John, that was his name. He just saw something in me, and he used to tell me that, I see something in you, that I think you're going to do great things or whatever. So he took the time to invest in me, and I really think that he wanted. I think that he saw that eventually somewhere down the line that I was his guy to pass the business on to, because he was already in his, I think, late 60s when we started. So.
Yeah. When you were, in that process with him, I mean, did you take to that well? Was it something you fought against? Did you guys butt heads? Like, how did it go in the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, there was times always, of course, and I was young, so I didn't know exactly. To look back on it now, I knew that he was teaching me and trying to help me and doing all the things there. But at the time, when you're in it, you can't really see that. So yeah, I resisted along the way, and sometimes we butted heads because he would be like, "Hey, let's stick to what we know," and I had all these big ideas all the time. Hey, let's go out and do mobile car repair with this, or let's start a tow company, or I was always like thinking out of the box. He was always like, let's stick to what we know, and keep it simple, so yeah, there was times that that we would butt heads on the way. But there was also times that he let me win. When I first started at that store, it had no lifts in it. It was all service. So it was 4 bays of the pits where we did fast lane oil changes, and 4 flat bays. So I was like, hey, we need a lift so we can start doing brakes and stuff. So he listened to some of that stuff, and that's where we started to grow.
That's great. What were some of the big lessons you learned in that first part of your career with him that you today like these are guiding pillars for you?
Well, I guess it would be always, to save money, be prepared for a rainy day. He was big on that. He was always big about cutting cost, and like that sticks into my head today. He grew up in the Depression, so he would reuse the trash bags so for the whole week. So he would dump out the trash, wipe them out, and use the trash bags all for Monday through Friday before he threw them away and stuff. So just like little lessons like that, just always, he's like the small thing, always control the small things or control the controllables, don't waste, with oil or whatever it was. He was big on, always cutting cost.
You was there a point when you kind of realized this is what I want to do with my life? Or, did that happen organically? Because at some point I know he sold the business to you. Like where what was that like?
Well, I guess it was like, yes, I mean, I guess it was organically, but like I knew, like I was getting to a point, like I mean, he taught me everything about business, and I loved the business. I loved the people. I loved working on cars. I loved the whole industry, and so like he was getting ready for retirement, so like. I think that's what made it such a good fit for us. But like I knew when I started managing the store, I was like, I want to own a store one day, and that was my goal. Is to own an auto repair shop.
So how did that come up?
We just he was going to buy a house in Florida. I think I was 28 years old at the time. He had made me partner. He gave me a working equity at age 24, and then from 24 to 28, he wanted to buy a place in Florida. His wife's like, "Oh, come on, let's retire and stuff." So I was like, "I would love to have the business." So we started having that conversation, and then he put together something that worked for him, and he was very fair with me, and he carried some of the note for me, so that was really the only way I was ever going to be able to get into the business, so he made sure that I had a commitment, that I came up with money where I was committed in the business, and then he financed the rest.
Was it like the day that you closed? I mean, what did
Oh,
you do?
oh
Was your
man,
wife involved? Like, tell me about that. I mean, 20, how old were you? You said
I was
27?
28. Yeah, I
I
was
mean,
so
I was an idiot at 28.
me too. I was so excited. I mean, the closing. But I tell you, the next day, I had been running the store for 4 or 5 years on my own, and he was in the background. But the next day, I was like so nervous to walk in. I was like, man, I'm responsible for all these people. I'm responsible for this store, and I got to make things happen. So, it was like an eye opener for me. So it was exciting and fun, but it was also scary the first day, to get settled in. And I'd signed up for all this money. It's probably the most money I'd ever spent in my life.
This episode of Beyond Broken Cars is proudly presented by Leads Near Me, providing digital marketing for auto repair shops since 2016. Whether it's Google Ads, SEO, AI SEO, website design, or social media, they can help you effortlessly increase car count. And here's something special for our listeners. You can claim a free SEO analysis and marketing review. Plus, if you decide to let Leads Near Me handle your marketing, you'll get $250 off your custom website. No contracts, proven results. Call 678-733-9682 and mention this podcast, or scan the QR code if you're watching the video version. That's 678-733-9682, or scan the code. That's Leads Near Me. Effortlessly increase car count. Learn more at leadsnearme.com. So you walk in, the weight of I'm the guy now, I'm guiding the ship is on your shoulders. Like, did it go away that same day? Did it take time? Like, when did you kind of find that, I will call it a comfort, but being able to handle that?
I guess it didn't go away right away. I guess after I was able to pay the bills a couple months, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm able to pay the bills. I'm making payroll. I'm making a little money. So I think that's where it kicked in. Okay, I can do this.
Yeah. Were you surprised when like the first few months, like the other shoe didn't fall? Like what?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The fear of losing, the fear of not being successful, that pressure's on your shoulders every day. And, I was there for my family. I had 6 guys at the time, and I'm responsible for their families now at this point too. It's like we all have to eat. We all have to take care of our customers. We want to provide the best service. We were well known in the town already, as a go-to place to have your car fixed, and just being able to carry John's wishes on of taking care of his customers, because he took it serious. I mean, he had like lifetime friends and customers and everything. That he wanted to make sure we're taken care of, and going multi-shop and buying these shops, that's the number one thing that the old retiree guys, they're more worried about their people and they're worried about their customers. Are you going to treat them fair? Are they going to be treated like they treated them for the past 20, 30 years? I mean, that's near and dear to their heart, and they really they wear that with a badge of honor. They want to make sure the right person's getting taken over their store, and that everybody's going to be okay, and that you're going to give them a fair handshake. You're going to treat them right and treat them how they want you to treat their customers or their employees.
For some things you did to honor what John built and give that experience to now your customers and your employees.
Yeah, just always, trying to, make the right decision for the customer. We always approached every car that, hey, unless the customer told us differently, that we're trying to get your car to 250,000 miles. And it's my job to, to guide you and to advise you the right way. So just carrying on that tradition. Some of the other things, people didn't always have the money to fix their car. So, and John would always, everybody gets service. Everybody gets their car fixed no matter what. And he said he's never, I can count on my hand the times that I've been burned that the people haven't come back. So I always tried to honor that as well. Even if, if somebody, a mom was having a hard time, or an old person, or whatever the situation may be, just to make that happen for them no matter what. And it always comes back tenfold.
What were some things that happened in those early days that didn't go so well? Mistakes you made, things that looking back, you would have done differently?
Well, I learned about fleet accounts, and I got burned a couple of times on very big fleet accounts. I had a couple of rental car companies I did business for, and I had like a roofing company that went out of business and just got burned with a lot of money, because we would carry the money for them back then, 30 days pay, and a few times on that I got burned, and it hurt bad, so.
As you were you know, in the owner role, you're working a lot, you're building the business, you know, what were some things that you did to have, connection with your family, with your wife, with your kids as you're building the business? Because I think that's something that, so many shop owners struggle with that balance where, it's way lopsided one way or another, or they struggle with, the so-called work-life balance. What were some things that were helpful? Or maybe was that something that you really struggled with in the beginning?
Well, at the very beginning, really, there was no life. I mean, I worked all the time. I worked probably 15 hours a day, and that came out of the fear that we just talked about. The fear of losing, or the fear of not being successful, and letting John down, letting my parents down, letting my family down, letting my employees down. So I ran off of that fear for a long time. So I would work day and night to get it going. But as I got the foundation set up, and I got my key people in there, I made it a point also to always coach my kids football, baseball, softball, soccer. I did all that, and I never, well, I won't say never, but very few games did I miss. I always try to show up for their games, and try to be a part of their lives when they were growing up. And I think that was important to make that a priority. Hey, I'm coaching baseball, so I'm going to be off these 2 nights. I got to leave at 4 o'clock, and just having those people step up and take that over for you, I think that's really important. Is having that key man, and Tim was my key man for all those years, and be able to step into my position and do things the way I want them done, and be able to, that letting go part is very difficult for the owner at first. I think that was the most difficult part of everything. Is like, I worked the front desk for years. Everybody knew me. Everybody that called wanted to talk to me. So being able to just pass that on to someone, hey, Tim's here. He's going to be able to help you today, or whatever that is. That would be my advice for someone that's wanting to grow, or to grow their business, or to be able to step out and have that family time, or be able to travel, or whatever. Is you got to have that key man.
As you were taking over the business and over the years, really making it your own, did you maintain, all the things that he had in place, or did you over time make significant changes, and how did you navigate that?
Well, I think that we really kept his the key things that John did previously, but in order to grow, there's always got to be changed, and changing the software over, and be able to inspect the cars, writing our SOPs, and having systems and processes that everybody follows. So everybody knows the playbook. It's not like I have the playbook up here, but I'm not telling all my guys. So they, if I'm out, which when I got hurt, there was no playbook. So everybody's going in 5 different directions, thinking, doing the best that they can, or what they think is best for the company, and so I think that's another point, that you can never have enough systems and processes. And there's never enough training. I think you have to live that culture of always training 24/7. And that goes from everybody in the company. If somebody's sweeping the floor, they need to know exactly how you want the floor swept, or whether it's a technician of 30 years, you have an inspection process that you use, or that I use, and that's the speed way, and that's the way we want it done. We have a way that we answer the phone, and whether it's one store, if it's 10 stores, I want everybody answering the phone exactly the same way, using the same phone scripts, how you intake a customer, how you intake a car, and the customer process has to be the same, where they're going to my Alpharetta location, or they're going to my Dawsonville location. I want them to have the same experience, and that's where all your systems and processes come back in line. And being able to, and talking about that every day. Every time I go into a store, we talk about the phone scripts. We talk about whether it's the inspection processes. We're doing ticket audits. We're looking at the tickets, and we're making sure that everybody is doing the speed way, because I want the customer to have our speed auto repair experience, and we got to get everybody rowing in the same way all the time. And whether it's the front desk or the back of the house, but everybody has to know that, what our way is. And that, I think that's been part of our success.
I think it's critical. I mean, anytime that I've worked with a shop owner and there isn't that standardization, especially when they go multi-location, I think that exasperates, where a new store really flounders because, the current store is operating efficiently ish, hopefully. The new store, you've not been able to transfer those things. So, watching you grow and I mean, your stores quickly get up to speed now, no pun intended. It's very evident. Where did you learn that? Was that something that just kind of intuitively came to you? Did you, really utilize any resources in the beginning to kind of get those mindsets? How did that work for you?
Well, I think that was when I came into coaching and watching. I always try to find the other successful shop owners, or finding guys that are doing what I'm trying to do, and maybe a little bit ahead of me, and that's where I learned that. The common theme in every multi-shop owner, or the guys that are trying to grow their business, is training, where you're training and how you're training. And now, I just keep building on that. We go to coaching and we use all their training and everything. But now that, we're multi-shop and we've got a lot of locations, like I'm creating my own platform for the speed auto repair training. And we hold that once a month. And everybody in the whole company is going through it, and it tells about our history and our processes and our phone scripts, and we role play, and we do our three objections and all that kind of stuff. And then we go back and we look at people's KPIs. Everybody in my company has a scorecard. So if you're working in my company, we have a scorecard. So, and you have your own KPIs, and we watch those, and people that are struggling in the area. If you had some bad phone calls, you're going to be in the training session that month. If you had your AWRO is low, or your closing ratio is low, you're going to be in the training class, and we hold that once a month on Saturdays, and it's 3 or 4 hours. And that's been a tremendous kicker for us.
It's amazing now, really, and there's bits and pieces that I wasn't aware that you're doing or have done, and it makes so much sense hearing the things that you've got going on in the shop from what I've seen outwardly on your businesses as you've grown. It's amazing. I want to go back a little bit in time though, because when one thing I know about your story is you had a pretty significant incident that happened. I think it was in the early 2000s that really, after working with a lot of business owners, could have taken the business out, and you really overcame a lot. I think it would be amazing if we could talk about that. Tell us a little bit about what happened, and walk us through that situation.
Sure. I've always loved Harleys and rode motorcycles my whole entire life. I did a couple of tours across the United States, and I had just come back from a 17-state tour. I went out to Sturgis, South Dakota, and made a big circle, 17 states, and I made it back from that 7,000 miles. I rode my bike into work that Saturday. It was August 26th of 2003. And then on my way home, I got hit by a car, a young driver. We were looking eye to eye, and he just got his driver's license, and he said he didn't see me, so he just pulled out and hammered me. So I got life flighted to Grady Hospital. I had heart surgery, knee surgery, shoulder surgery, stomach surgery. I couldn't talk for like 4 or 5 months because my vocal cords were messed up from where they did the emergency heart surgery and stuff. So it was a near-death experience for sure. It was hard times. So like I was telling you earlier, at that moment I had no systems, I had no processes, I had no chain of command, I had no plan for, hey, if something happens to me, if I'm out of work for a month, who's going to take charge? I had none of that in place. So that was a huge lesson for me. Luckily, Tim had been with me for a long time. I had another technician had been with me, I don't know, 10 years or whatever. So they were able to just step up and really maintain the business until I got better, and to let me heal and stuff. So, but that was a lesson learner for me to, to get busy on the processes and have systems, and a key guy, hey, that you step into the role if something happens to me.
You're smiling now and you're laughing as you're telling this story, and in my head, I mean, I'm trying to imagine. I've not been in a collision like that. I've been in a few, but I mean, life lighted, heart surgery, can't talk. Like, you also now have this business on your shoulders. You've got notes you've got to meet. You've got employees are counting on. You've got family. Like, what was that like in that moment? And how did you go from, ICU, everything's crashing around you, to where, to getting to a point where you could continue in the business? Because like I said, I think that would have ended a lot of people's businesses.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely trying times. I mean, after I was released from the hospital after the heart surgery, I had 14 broken bones on my left side as well. So at the time, man, I couldn't even really worry about the business at the time. I was worried about healing, and yeah, exactly, And so I got sent home, and I was just at home healing, and really, it was probably 45 to 90 days where I could start like getting out, I was in a wheelchair, and I still couldn't talk. I had like a really hoarse voice. I was like, talking like
Where you
this
get the
and stuff.
DJ voice.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
as soon as I started feeling better, then I was able to start checking in with the business, and luckily, we got through it. The one thing that we talked about earlier was keeping my bills really low. So I was always smart about that. So I live well below my means of income. So that was a huge help. So and I had money saved. That was another thing. Luckily, at the time, I had money saved, and I was able to make it through it. And my guys were able to step up and to carry on the business. It wasn't a great time for all of us, but we made it through it. And like I say, when I could start going down there, I would go down there like once a week and just see everybody and check in and see the customers and stuff. And we had a ton of customer support and stuff, and the community support, and so they were able to let me get my wits back together and to heal and to move on from that.
Who ran the day to day, during that period where you were pretty much incapacitated?
Tim and Jeremy. So Tim McCord, Tim, and so he's my lead guy. So he did really the office stuff, and then my lead technician that's been with me forever, Jeremy. He really stepped up and made sure that the back and made sure that we were making money, making sure that they were getting the cars out and trying to do them right and everything. So
It says a lot about, I think, how you were as a leader, prior to this, that, your team who, the owner's not here. I don't know when he's coming back. You are the face of the business. I don't know what's going to happen with the business. I've got my own bills to pay, but they stuck with you. Not only did they stick with you, they really stepped up.
they did.
What do you think, like, what were some lessons you learned reflecting back that helped, your team get to that point of loyalty to you and to the business?
Well, just always treating people like their family, treating people good. I mean, that's all everybody wants. And that's the way I still try to, I walk the floor of all my stores at least once a week. I communicate with every single person in my company. I try to learn about them, what drives them, what are their goals, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to get a house? Are they trying to get a new car? Or it may be something as simple as, hey, I want to go on a vacation, or I want a new toolbox. And I try to listen to all that. I try to write it down. I try to keep up with it. I try to help them get there. I try to, ask them about it. How's it going? Remind them about it and stuff. And it just puts I put value into them, and people feel that, and I'll do anything. I'll give anybody in my company the shirt off my back. I'll do anything to try to make their life better as well. And I think I think all my employees know that. I think that they know that I'll step up to bat for them anytime and do anything in the world for them. And I want to create an environment where everybody can be successful. It's up to you. If you want it, the opportunity's there. And that I'm going to provide the clean environment, the beautiful shops, the marketing program that's going to get you the cars, I'm going to do all my part that I can to help every person be successful in my company. And I think they know that.
It's very apparent. I mean, the numbers tell the story of how the businesses ran and the systems and processes. I, again, outside looking in, like everything you're telling me, yep, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. That's how you build it. And another thing that I'm kind of realizing right now is, a lot of people have, pretty dramatic parts of their business. And I think one thing that I'm hearing in the thread of your story is you've always created margin too. Like
Yes.
margin in savings, margin in profit, margin with staff, so that when there's hard things that happen in the business, you're not, so close to the edge that is what took you out. It was because you had that foresight to make sure that there was some of those things in place, which, you learned from the previous owner. So
Sure.
that makes a ton of sense to me. Um, you back to the, right after the accident, 90 days, you're starting to get back in the business. What were some things you started doing to build up that bench formally to further the margin to really, set the stage for what speed is today, which is an incredible business that's serving a lot of customers. Like, you have an amazing business. Walk us through that next season. How did we get from that phase to this phase?
Well, as I stepped back into the business and was able to, I think I was out almost a year. But when I stepped back into the business, we were running things, and that's what I told you, uh, that I went on, the vendor compensation trip, and that's where I met another guy that like, he was super successful, and he was like, he made it look easy, and I was like, holy smokes, I'm like miles behind this guy, and I'd like to hear what he had to say, that's when I reached out to him, and he was kind enough to coach me for a year and help me to get my business back on track, and all the things that all the holes that I had missing in my business. He was able to help me fill that gap, and he turned me on to coaching, and coaching. There's nothing. I would never go without another coach. 100%. You got to have coaching, and it's not even necessarily about the coaching. It's about, you got to have other mentors, the guys in the business. Like, that's where I learned everything, is going to visit other shop owners and hearing how they're doing it, and hearing whatever their success story is, and taking from their success and bringing it back to our business. It's a shortcut. It's like you get to shortcut all the rabbit holes that you're running down, trying to find out what was working and stuff. So that's just a huge value to us, and that's where we really took off. I'm a great executor. I just need to know what to execute, and being able to take from these other guys that are multi-shop, and that they have successful businesses, and they're willing to share with you what they're doing and stuff. And so that was probably where we really took off in business, is being able to, it was coaching and meeting other shop owners. For me, in the past, like when other shop owners were very closed, nobody would ever share any information. It's like, are you busy? Of course I'm busy. I'm lined up right here. It's like all lies, it's like, you know, so to get honesty from other shop owners and to truly help each other. And I mean, like, shop owners are freaking amazing people, man. I mean, everybody's got willing to help and just good people, good, honest people. And I think everybody wants everybody to succeed. I know all the shop owners in my town now, and we all help each other. And hey, whether it's employees or equipment or whatever it may be. And I love that. I love the community and to be a part of that and to be able to help other shop owners and the guys that are coming in. I've got several guys that I help, and I share the information that was given to me, and share with them and hope and watch their business become successful. I love doing that as well.
I'm hearing that, there's a couple of things that you really did in that period. One is you were humble. Like,
Yes.
you had figured out a lot, and you really done some amazing things up to that point and built a good team and gone through a lot. But walking into a room with other guys that were 20 steps ahead of you, instead of having delusions of grandeur, you were honest with yourself. It sounds like about, yeah, I've done some stuff, but also if I want to get here, I've got to do these things that they're doing. And then that also, really speaks to, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're doing what other people have found successful. That humility and that just willingness to be a student, has that always been something that you've had, or was there a struggle in the beginning of kind of getting in line with that mindset?
I mean, when I started coaching and meeting these other guys, I knew that I was the student. I knew that I needed to listen. I like their businesses were day and night compared to mine, and even as far as what they provided for their employees and making sure that the employees have good benefits and making sure that they have plenty of vacation time to do with their families and the things that they want to do. Those were some of the lessons that I took. I was like, wow, I want to work for you. You have great benefits and all the things that you offer. So being able to pull that into my company, and we try to provide the best benefits for every single employee. So that was a lesson as well. And just, again, back to creating the environment that I want to live in, and that I want to be in,
So so when you were in that period of being a student, and really taking all this stuff to heart, how long was it from when you kind of started that to when, you really started applying those in a massive way, opening that second store and then third and, from there?
Well, it was a good solid year that I worked with this other guy that helped me get everything started, and just I had so many holes to fill. It was like drinking from a fire hose. Every week I was like, okay, I got to do this, but it made working and it made working exciting again. So I was so excited. I was like, and when I went and implemented what he was telling me to implement, it was like I saw the immediate change, and then your employees see the change. They're like, oh, he's on fire for this. He's like making things happen. He's making things better for us, and he's trying. So that makes them get on board as well. So everybody's, working for the same direction, trying to make your store better, to try to make the customer experience better and stuff. So, but it was a good year of really just getting down and recreating everything in the business and making everything work and make it work in our way and stuff. And then after that, I saw that, hey, everything's working. We got a good hold on this. We're making money. Our stores are looking good. Employees are happy. Our customers are happy. And then, so we decided that's when we were going to open shop two, and an opportunity, came about, where it was my Alpharetta store. And, so we pulled the trigger on it, did it. That was, 2020. And, we took everything that we had implemented at our original store and brought bought it there, and that store was doing 700,000 a year. And the first year, I think we did 2.2 million in the first year just by putting our people and our processes, our marketing system, and all that. And we've grown that store. I think that store will do $3.7 million this year. So
Amazing.
yeah.
So when did we get to store 3 and so on? Like how
Well,
quickly, what you proved the concept, you're like, okay, I can do 2. When do we
yeah.
get to 3 and 4 and 5?
Well, we were fortunate, like everything went perfectly for the second store. And you hear all kinds of horror stories like, oh my God, that in which 1 to 2 is probably the hardest store because you're so scared and you got to see what works. Hey, is this going to work in this demographic or whatever? You're changing the people and you're changing the place and everything. I opened that up in July of 2020. We were super successful, really fast, and then it's like, hey, we're onto something here. Let's look for another one. And then in December 28th of the same year, I closed on my North Roswell store, and that's our highest producing store now. And that was the same thing. He was doing $600,000 a year. And now this year we're on track to do $4.7 million out of a 7-bay shop. So it's just amazing. The people, we have such good people. The front of the house and the back of the house, and they've done just a tremendous job and making customers happy and retaining the customers, and all of our everything's working there. And so we just kept on the journey, and then I started looking for other stores. I bought my the Sugarloaf store over in Lawrenceville, and got that going. And then I bought Pure, which is another Lawrenceville store there, which we sold that one recently. And then I bought my Johns Creek store, then the Swanee store, and then the Sugar Hill store, and then the Dawsonville store. And so we're continued to on our growing path. Our goal is to be at 25 stores by 2031, and so far we're on target for that. And it's just we're going to continue doing the things that we're doing, and it's just making a great experience for the customers and for our employees, and hopefully everything goes our way.
I don't know that you need like luck or anything. I think things are going well because you've built the business to do that. Just
Thanks.
very frankly.
I appreciate that.
I mean, there's looking at how things have turned out. There's no other reason, that's the success you've had is not common. And I really think it's the things that, were poured into you on an early age that you really took a hold of, that you listened to, and really owned, and then continued down that path. You didn't get to a point where you said to yourself, I'm good, I'm the man, I got it figured out. You knew you were doing some good things, but you kept being a student, you kept learning. And I think that's your goal is going to be based on the pace I'm seeing from you, maybe even a little quicker than your initial timeline, man.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Thomas. Yeah, it's been fun. I love this business. I love everything about it. I enjoy finding the stores. I enjoy training. I enjoy being in the stores. I enjoy all my employees and talking with them and just making things better. So I have the love for it for sure.
I'd like to switch gears and ask you a final question. You're really, tuned in on your market and really taking on stores, and you're studying them and you're bringing them in. But what do you see in the next 10 years for auto repair?
I mean, I think that you're going to have to continue to evolve and especially with the EVs and the hybrids and all that things. I think that you're going to have to continue to learn and continue to change when the industry changes. But I see all of us doing really well. I mean, everybody, you're going to need a car always. And as I see that things are going to be good for us for the next 10 years.
I think so too. Jim, it's been an honor to hear more of your story. Thank you for coming on and sharing it with the audience. It's been a wonderful interview. Thanks again.
Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate you.
That was my interview with Jim Brown. We want this show to help as many auto repair shop owners as possible, so please subscribe and share the show with others. And thanks again to our sponsor, Leads Near Me, helping auto repair shops effortlessly increase car count since 2016. Learn more at leadsnearme.com. Thanks for listening. Till next time.